ago. Apparently back then there was an abundance of wild pepper plants that grew along its banks. It is primarily a spring bed maintaining a constant water temperature of somewhere between 72 and 75 degrees year-round. Folks, we're also open year-round. Just so you for your planning purposes, if you planning a trip, all Florida state parks are open 365 days a year, so we're all the same, okay? The name of the town that we're located in, Homosassa, another Native American term loosely translates to home or land where the peppers grow. If there are any veterans aboard the boat, I would like to thank you for your service.
This is so fun.
And yes, round of applause for him. I'm also a retired U.S. Army Master Sergeant, so I certainly won't use nautical terms. No offense against any Navy folks on board the boat, but just let's make it easy. So when I go down the creek, I'll use terms like left, right, front, and back of the boat. I think it's going to make it easier for everybody involved. So again, I'm not prejudiced or anything like that. So as we get down, as we get down through here, ahead of us, you're going to see that pedestrian bridge there. Just this side of it on the left, as we get close to the bridge, you're going to see some green mossy stuff hanging down from the tree branches and limbs. Most people simply refer to that as being Spanish moss. Well, the fact is it's not Spanish and it's not a moss, it's an air plant. Oil bromeliad gets all its nutrients from rainwater, air, and air particles. One of its distant relatives happens to be a pineapple. I'm having trouble with this pH system again. I apologize for that. Little insects love Spanish moss. That's how they move around the tree. There's a kind of interesting tidbit about Spanish moss. Henry Ford used the unclean Spanish moss to stuff the upholstery and manufacture the Model C Ford back in the early 1900s. Now, apparently, Mr. Ford didn't realize that there was insects in that stuff. Anyhow, it did lead to the first United States automobile recall. To the left front of the boat, you're going to see a palm tree right there. That's a stable palm. It happens to be the Florida state tree. But it's also known as a cabbage palm. Now, folks, if you were to cut open the top of that tree right down the center of it, you'd notice this white leafy substance. That's the cabbage portion of the tree. And it's edible. You can find it at most grocery stores down here in Florida. And you find it in the canned vegetable section where it would be labeled parts of palm. It's going to give you a hard time all day. Now, it's not harvested here in Florida. That would be illegal. It is a Florida state tree. So what you find in the grocery stores down here is actually a product of South America. Up here in a little bit, you're going to see that example of the prescribed burn. Everything's greening right back up, so they do it pretty frequently down here. We do have 4 different species of fish in the creek. We have Florida bass, brim, alligator gar, and catfish. And we also have 5 different species of turtle. Yellow sliders, red sliders, soft-shell turtle, snapping turtle, and also alligator snapping turtle. Now, folks, as we get down the creek here this morning, we're liable to see some turtles swimming in the water. On each side of the boat, really, it doesn't matter. You also may see them on down tree limbs and logs near the water. What they're doing is called basking. Turtles are cold blood, so they do rely on the sun to help warm their body. The sun will also bake any parasites or moss off their shell. And then finally, they're trying to absorb as much natural vitamin D from the sun that they can. Excuse me. A little history of the park. It actually started off as a roadside attraction in the 1940s, I believe. People loved coming to our giant spring to swim for the day. A couple of significant times in ownership. From 1955 through 1988, it was a privately owned exotic wildlife park. They had all kinds of interesting exotic animals kept here. Of course, the people in the United States weren't exposed to exotic animals too much, so the park became very popular. Even Ivan Tors, producer of motion pictures, had some of his animal actors kept here. And I'll talk about them later. But right around it, we're guessing this is what happened. Right around the time that Walt Disney came to Florida, that exotic park began to realize some financial difficulties. Long story short, the governor, the state at the time here in Florida, was a gentleman by the name of Lawton Child. The governor said, hey, let's go ahead and take over the park. In doing so, I only want animals that are native to the state of Florida taken here that need our help. So they began to get rid of all the exotic animals, and they did get rid of them all except for one, that's Lou, our 6,000-pound African hippopotamus. Now, nobody wanted poor Lou. Besides, the children right here in Citrus County just adored Lou. They petitioned the governor, and the governor actually made Lou an honorary resident of the state of Florida. We do have paperwork on file that states that. And I'll talk about Lou later in the trip a bit more. But folks, don't think of us as a zoo. Think of us more along the lines of being a rescue or a rehabilitation center for injured animals. I like to think of us in terms of being a second chance home, and I think all animals deserve that second chance. Animals do come to us all the time that are hurt or injured. We try to nurse them back to good health and return them back out to Mother Nature as quickly as we can. But there are exceptions to that. Those animals that may have a human imprint. Now, a human imprint means the animal feels very comfortable around humans, and to a degree they rely on humans for their survival. Or those animals that may come that are so severely injured. I'll give you a couple quick examples. Now, many of you said you've been here before. You may remember that we had two Florida black bear here. Their names were Biddy and Brutus. They were both orphaned at a very early age. And they came here and they had to live their life out right here. Sadly, the brother Brutus passed away about 4 or 5 months ago. He had been sick, but Biddy's doing fine. Now, you're also going to see 3 adult and 1 immature bald eagle in the park. Now, many think we actually clipped their wings so they're unable to fly. No, truth be told, they were so severely injured when they arrived, they must also stay here the rest of their lives. On the left-hand side of the boat, you're going to see what looks like a big birdhouse on a stick with a cone-shaped device at its base. That's one of our 12-in-all wood duck nesting boxes you'll see as we get down the creek. The purpose for that cone or conical-shaped device is to keep predators out of it, and that's like raccoon, opossum, and snakes, while the female's in there tending to the eggs. Now, you see, they dredged the creek in the 1960s. And when they did, they inadvertently destroyed much of the nesting habitat. So they went ahead and construct these. Now, the reason they dredged the creek is because they wanted to introduce these boats